Bim! Guess what? We're live, and we are doing What a Week That Was for this week, which is a week that was. It's been a bit of a tragic week, one way or another. I do try and keep this light-hearted, slightly satirical, and slightly funny, but obviously some of the subjects that we cover are quite deep, and obviously you'll all know what I'm referring to, but we will come to that in a short while. Hello Angela, hope you're well, and everyone else joining us. First off, we'll have a bit of light-heartedness, which is what I was going to end last week's show with, but with the technical difficulties at the end I kind of forgot. And it's a bear, a cub, that was absolutely smashed out of its head on mad honey. Apparently, a certain bee, when it goes to, Super Gamer plays, when it goes to, what are they called? Not Delilah's. Rhododendrons, I think. The big ones that you see in parks. Yeah, I'm not so bad. Well, when the bees go to that and make the honey, it ferments, and the bears eat it, and the bears get drunk, and then it all kicks off. Anyway, this bear was filmed in the back of this van. Some park rangers or someone had picked them up, put it in the back of the van, and it was just lolling around like your uncle at a wedding. The video is hilarious. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend that you look at it, but not yet, maybe later, because obviously we're doing a live broadcast. If it isn't live, then fair enough, but I still prefer if you I know you know what I mean. The bad news is, although there is some more funny stuff, a lot of the stuff this week is, like say, not the best news ever. So we will start though with, well, someone trying to mess up Rishi's Premiership hopes. Michael Gove, of all people. I mean, you know, if you want someone to be your ally, you want someone who's popular and people like and trust and respect, and then he gets Michael Gove. I mean, basically, you might as well just hand the keys to Downing Street to Liz Truss. God, heaven help us. But yeah, he's in his ultimate wisdom, he has decided that he is going to back Rishi Sunak, which basically means we're all up the creek without a paddle because we're going to get Liz Truss in, and I'll be honest with you, Liz Truss is not. Oh, she's not capable of anything. Not capable of anything at all. Anyway, there was sad news last week, if you remember. The gentleman who was on his scooter, 87-year-old guy, did a lot of charity work, entertained people, very popular. He was stabbed to death in broad daylight in London. Well, a man has gone into court charged with his murder, which is good news, although it's very, very tragic, the whole thing. And here's an artist's impression of him. I don't know why we still do artist impressions of things like that. Once someone's been charged and in court, why don't we just have photographs of them in court? Talking of people not going to court, P&O, if you remember earlier on this year, they fired a lot of their employees, I think it was about 800, if I remember rightly, via text message. They all got a video message, not text message, a video message on their phones, basically telling them that as soon as they read this, they are sacked. They no longer work for the company. And then they got in workers from outside England, the United Kingdom, who they can pay less money for, but still run the company, and they still charge people the same amount for, well, it'd be more now, won't it, because fuel costs going up. But yeah, anyway, it turns out that there's not going to be any charges or anything against them. There's not going to be any penalties or anything like that. They basically got away with it, and it kind of opens a door that we're a bit worried may mean that in the future a lot of other people may think that they can do it the same way. And you can't. I mean, stuff like that is just ridiculous. I mean, just because the technology says you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. I mean, it's like when you get hold of a microphone when you shouldn't have one. Oh yeah, Anthony Joshua. I had the lovely experience of watching the fight against a very strange Ukrainian, and basically it was very boring, and Joshua lost, and we kind of turned it off after that. And then Joshua picked up 2 of the belts, and then, well, it said threw them, but watching the video back, he kind of drops them on the ground outside the ring, and then storms out the ring, and then he comes back again. I'll let you off, Angela, but don't do it again. Then he comes back again into the ring and takes the microphone, and then starts ranting about God knows what. I'm not even bothered listening to it, but it was embarrassing. It's embarrassing when sports people, I know you want them to feel the passion for what they're doing, and you want them to be upset when it doesn't work and all this kind of stuff, but they're supposed to be professionals. There are kids who look up to him, and he's stomping around like a 5-year-old. Absolutely ridiculous. And well done to the Ukrainian anyway. I mean, I'm not an expert on boxing. Watching 2 men or women just punch lumps off each other, it doesn't do anything for me at all. It's just like, yeah. But it would turn out that, well, there may be a $500 million fight between Mike Tyson and the Ukrainian fighter who won the fight. Yeah. But Mike Tyson posted on Sunday morning, the fight was Saturday night, Sunday morning, that his cousin had been murdered on a night out in Altrincham, which is near Manchester, quite posh, and knife crime is not being treated by the government seriously enough, and there should be more punishments and all that kind of stuff. Now, I honestly think Tyson Fury is a bit of an idiot, but he was talking complete sense, and he was very, considering what had happened to his very close relative, because he used to train together and everything for boxing, really well put and well thought out, and it is right. You know, we berate the Americans for their gun laws and their shootings and everything that go on all the time, mass shootings. You know, every day there's at least 2 mass shootings, it seems, in America being reported. I mean, there was a few today, and I didn't bother even copying them because I'm just bored of it now. But in America, that's normal. Over here, it's stabbings, people being stabbed. And we need to do something about knife crime. We need to, obviously we can't ban knives, but we need to make it so if you're caught with a knife on you for no good reason, i.e. you're not a chef, or whatever other reason you'd have a knife, I don't know, you get 6 months in prison, full stop. You've been found with that knife, it's on your person, there was no reason for you to have it, you go to prison for 6 months. If it happens again, it's 6 years. We've got to stamp out knife crime, and we've got to do it quickly. Yes, we do get shootings in the UK, and I'm coming to that later on, but we've dealt with guns, and our shootings, although they weren't many before, are very, very small in numbers compared to other countries. We need to do the same with knife crime. We need to make kids ashamed that they carry knives. To be fair, it's teenagers who are carrying more than anyone else, but they need a sharp shock, and they need to know that they can't do it. So Tyson Fury, 100% behind him on this one, and obviously thoughts and prayers for the family at their sad loss. But yeah, there's more to come, unfortunately, and it's pretty instant as well. I was talking before about gun crime. Well, this is young Olivia. She was 9 years old. She was in a house one evening recently, and there was some noise outside. Her mother went to investigate. She opened the door. This guy she'd never seen before in her life bashes through the door, runs into the house, followed by another guy, but this guy's got a gun. He's already fired 3 shots outside. He fires 1 shot inside. It hits Olivia's mum, injures her through the wrist. It hits the guy who's being chased, and he falls down, but it also hits Olivia, a 9-year-old girl in her own house, and she's killed pretty much instantly. It's horrendous. It's the 3rd shooting in Liverpool in a week. There was a woman who was killed, who was 28 years old, she was shot in her house, but they say it's mistaken identity. That doesn't actually help the situation. Saying, oh, it's mistaken identity, sorry about that. Someone's lost a life. And then a young guy as well, I think he was 22, he got shot as well, and again, perfectly innocent. The family of Olivia did not know the guy who burst into the house. They did not know the guy chasing this guy. And what makes it worse, I mean, could it get worse? Yes. The guy who got shot was in the house. Two of his mates came into the house whilst Olivia is on the floor, obviously severely injured. Her mum has got blood, I imagine, coming out quite a lot from her wrist. They ignore them two, pick up the mate and take him to hospital. Now, I'm not saying Olivia would have survived if they chucked her in the car as well, but I mean, it's humanity, isn't it? No matter what the situation is, if you see a child that is in danger of any kind, as a human, you must do something about it. And to ignore a child on the floor with bleeding from the chest, there is something wrong with you as well. And I think, as well as the shooter, these two should be up on charges as well. I don't know what the law is, I'm not a lawyer, but there should be something that makes these two reprobates actually pay for what they did. If they'd have helped, I wouldn't say they'd be heroes, but if they'd have took, maybe left the mother, but took Olivia in the car to the hospital to try and save her, then they wouldn't be the animals that what we think they are and what people are thinking they are as well. It's absolutely awful. Annie, you caught me in a serious bit. It's meant to be light-hearted, this, but you can't be light-hearted about the stuff that's going on. They arrested then in the hospital the guy who burst into the house and got shot. They've also talked to the two guys who took him to hospital. The guy who got shot would not help the police at all about who was chasing him or why. He was out from prison for burglary and all that kind of stuff. Not violence, just burglary, and it's just a lad who's gone down the wrong route. But he wouldn't help with a murder inquiry for a 9-year-old when he's being chased by someone. I mean, it doesn't get worse than a 9-year-old being murdered in her own house. An innocent, I mean, all 9-year-olds are innocent, but it just doesn't bear thinking about. Anyway, the good news is, late last night, a guy was arrested, and it's definitely been questioned about the shooting. I'm not sure whether he's been charged or not yet, but hopefully they've got the right guy, and he's going to go to prison for an incredibly long length of time. Now, I know there is a law. If you're with a group of people, say, like 6 teenage lads with all the bubble jackets on and all that kind of thing, all dressed in black, and one of you's got a knife, and one of the gang stabs someone and no one stops you from doing it, and that person dies, you can all get done for murder. Surely that can be interpreted into this. If the guy hadn't have run into the house, okay, he was bricking it because he's being chased by a guy with a gun who'd shot 3 times, but he's chosen to go into that house knowing there's a gunman behind him. He doesn't know who's in that house. It could be an elderly couple, it could be disabled people, it could be a family who fled the war from Ukraine, it could be anyone. He's bashed into that house, and one of the people in that house has been killed, a 9-year-old, and someone else, the mother, has been shot. So you are, if you hadn't have done that, they would still be alive and unhurt. You are the reason why Olivia is dead. So there must be something they can do to make sure that he gets punished for that as well. And his 2 mates who come in and dragged him out, they should get something as well. Murder by association. Thank you, Angela. I knew there was a term for it. But there's got to be something in that. And you can't say, it was manslaughter. I didn't mean to shoot the little girl. You're running around with a gun through the streets of Liverpool. You've shot it 3 times already. You've run into a house and shot it inside the house. That is murder in my book. You can't shoot someone with a gun in the UK and claim manslaughter. It just doesn't wash. I'm not saying he will do, but doesn't surprise me, but nothing surprises me these days. Anyway, on a lighter note, that got a bit deep, didn't it? I had a bit of a rant as well, I do apologise. Kyiv, it's the 31st anniversary of Kyiv, Ukraine, separating from Russia this week, and they had, what they normally do is they have a parade with the weapons and all this, guilty by association, and all that kind of goings. So what they've done this year is, instead of having all the army going through Kyiv, because it'd just get bombed, wouldn't it, and all the people watching would be hurt as well, and they're fighting a war anyway, so they probably ain't got any spare troops to do a parade. They dragged a lot of the tanks that they've destroyed from the Russians and vehicles they've caught off the Russians and put them on the main street of Kyiv and had them as a display, as basically a big two fingers to Putin. And I think whoever's come up with that idea, it's genius. I did fear that there'd be a lot of retribution for it, but as it happens, there was. But it was still a really cool move to just show the power that Ukrainians have got that Putin didn't think they had. Remember, we're 6 months in now, and Putin and his cronies thought it'd be 6 days and they'd be over. So yeah, it's good that they can actually do something like that, and like I say, it's just two fingers up to Putin's face, isn't it? And there's nothing wrong with that. Sadly though, bumbling Boris, our soon former to be Prime Minister, he went to Ukraine on the day, and I got shown a plaque. I don't know what the plaque is. He also did a rather, I don't think that was the best arm movement he could have done under the circumstances. Anyway, he went to Ukraine to offer support and a few more million or billion pounds worth of help for Ukraine, and I don't have a problem. I know it's, people are worrying about electricity and gas and all that kind of stuff. We'll come to that later on, but I don't have a problem with us sending money to Ukraine and sending them weapons, because we've got to stop Russia, and that's what's got to be done. But bumbling Boris has done. You've written it there as well. Bumbling Boris has done quite well with Ukraine. He's offered support. He's been there a few times now, and he's even learnt a bit of Ukrainian as well. He even did a speech in Ukrainian for the Ukrainian people. I'd like to see Liz Truss actually do a speech in English to English people, because it just doesn't happen. She's, oh God, I can't. Why is she going to be Prime Minister? God help us. I mean, Rishi's no better. Rishi rich, but Dizzy Lizzie and Rishi rich and bumbling Boris. I mean, oh Jesus Christ! And then you've just got useless Keir Starmer in the opposition. Anyway, we're talking about Ukraine. We're not talking about the British politics at the moment. There was a strike which basically tragically killed 22 people, including children, when Russia attacked a railway station and a train was in at the time. But under the circumstances of it being Ukrainians' Independence Day and the fact they had the tanks everywhere and Boris was there, I thought it was a very muted response. But then we find out that Putin's decided that they need more troops. They need to increase their army by 10%. So there may well be 2 million people, 2 million Russian soldiers and army people and navy and all that kind of stuff in the very near future. But the problem you've got is, are they trained or are they just dragging them off the streets? You're 18, you're 19, you're 20, whatever. Alright, come on, you're in the army now, here's a gun, that's how you shoot it, right, off you go. And that seems to be what's happening at the moment. A lot of people are joining the army, they're not getting the training that they should be getting before they go onto the battlefield, and they're getting killed. The Ukrainians have known for years that Russian would want to try and come back again. If you remember when it first started, they were on the streets making Molotov cocktails and all that kind of stuff. All the women and children, they all know how to do everything because they've been trained for that. But you're taking kids off streets in little villages in, God knows where, Siberia or whatever, and then giving them a gun, putting them in a uniform and shoving them into Ukraine. It's cannon fodder. They're just going to get killed. Putin is just an absolute nightmare. Not only is he killing Ukrainians, innocent Ukrainians, but he's also killing his own people by sending them out unprepared into battle. It's just madness. It is insane. But who's going to stop him? Well, hopefully something along the lines at some point. Another thing that's happened as well, that's gas pipes, by the way. The only thing I could find that was remotely gassy. Germany is fearing that Russia will cut the supply of gas to Germany, i.e. Europe, for the winter. So what they're doing is they are buying shed loads of gas and then storing it. So basically they are bulk buying, like people did toilet roll when lockdown was going to happen, and everyone went out and bought toilet roll and rice and pasta and stuff like that. Well, basically Germany's buying gas. I can see why they're doing it, but the problem is the price of gas has gone up again, and the reason for that is Germany is bulk buying it. Plus, obviously, other people think, oh, that's a good idea, we need to bulk buy as well. So the price is just going to go up and up and up and up and up. And it is terrifying to think where this is going to end. We've already got the what's cost of living price cap thing going on, which was announced today. So this is in the UK, obviously. In summer 2022, the average, this is not maximum, people think this is a maximum, it's not a maximum, the average was just under £2,000 a year for your fuel. But then it went up, it's gone up now to, I don't think that number's quite right, let's have a look, £3,549, which is what it's gone up to, which is the orange one. This is a thing that was before they actually announced it, this is what they guessed it was going to be. But they fear that the average for an average house in the UK is going to be £6,500 a year for your fuel. That's for your gas and your electricity. It doesn't include petrol at all. Talking of which, I got some petrol today in a petrol station in Walkden for £1.63.9, which was, I thought, fabulous. So I filled up. It only cost me 65 quid to fill up, but some silly woman reversed into the front of my car because she couldn't get out. It's a very tight garage, it's a very small garage. I think it was designed when people only had minis. Anyway, I digress. So the cost of living crisis is getting worse, and it is going to get worse. And panic buying isn't going to help anyone. But obviously, if Putin decides to turn off the gas supply as we get into autumn and winter, knowing that that's going to affect millions of people around the world, I mean, it could be a thing actually where maybe if he's using fuel as a weapon against Europe, we can go in and just destroy him. Because let's be honest, why are we scared of Russia? If they can't defeat Ukraine in 6 months, I mean, they've only got, what, a fifth of the country? And to be fair, 3/4 of that they already had before the war, because they had separatists in there and sympathisers. So it was basically, although it was Ukraine, it was controlled by Russia through militia and all that kind of stuff. So I think we should just go in and get rid of Russia if they carry on at this rate. But obviously what we need to do is stop using gas and petrol and stuff like that. But I've mentioned that many times on different other blogs and logs and everything else that I do, that I'm not going to go there. However, slightly tied in, there is a new wind farm, and it's the largest tomato flu. What? If it's a thing, I'll be talking about it. Yes, tomato flu. there's a new wind farm opened and switched on this week in the North Sea, which is, when complete, going to be powerful enough to light up 3/4 of Scotland's houses. I don't know whether heat them or not, but certainly light them. It's one of the deepest areas of the sea, they reckon, in the world, but I wouldn't know. I'll take their word for it. For how far down the actual orange pedestal thing goes, but it makes more sense doing this than it does having solar farms everywhere. I think they're a complete waste of time, particularly in the UK, when it's cloudy a lot of the time, it's dark a hell of a lot of the time, it's sunny. Well, in the summer it's not so bad, but other than that, complete waste of time. So yeah, wind farms definitely, but I still say powering cars, it should be done by hydrogen, and same for trucks and buses and all that kind of stuff. But you know, that's the thing for another day. But yeah, the largest, deepest, certainly UK wind farm has been set up and is starting to produce electricity. It's not finished yet, but it's getting there. Now there is some good news, which is good. It's been in the news because of sneezing tomatoes. I'm really serious. Sneezing tomatoes. Okay. I think someone's been on the gin a bit early. Sneezing tomatoes. I will look it up. I will look it up for next week. This nurse, Uwami Davis, went missing a while ago, and I'm pretty sure the police arrested a couple of men for her murder, even though they didn't find the body or anything. And then 7 weeks later, she turns up. A member of the public recognises her on the street. The police are called. They go to her and chat to her, and it is her. And she's safe, she's well, and she's getting the treatment she needs for issues that she may be having. So that's a happy ending. But the police, on the day she was reported missing by her family, actually spoke to her to a toe flu. I've got no idea what's going on. Spoke to her for whatever reason, but not noticed or not been informed when they typed it on their pads or whatever they type them in, who they were talking to, and you know, log it, that she was missing, even though she'd been reported missing that day. And that's because apparently she wasn't in the area where the police had reported it. There isn't a national database for missing people, basically. So what we need to do is have a national database for missing people. So if someone's reported missing, obviously, you know, in our case, Greater Manchester Police, you know, they type in, right, you know, name, address, date of birth, blah blah blah. Click a button, and not only does it go to all the Greater Manchester Police, but it also goes to all the other police, and it's like companies then, but the police forces around the country, and then they, if they find someone or they chat to someone, they know who it is, and they know that they are a missing person. And hopefully, instead of 7 weeks with whatever issues Uwami had, she might have been found in a couple of weeks, or she might not have even, it might have been a days. So hopefully she won't be none the worse for the, well, whatever the police have been up to. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention when we're on about green energy and all that kind of stuff is, you know, everyone says that climate change is a new thing, and climate change, you know, we've only discussed it for the last, you know, 20 years or whatever. I mean, when I was a kid, I wasn't aware of climate change. There were power stations everywhere pumping out all this, that and the other. But it's about this though. This is from 100 years ago. Coal consumption affecting climate. This is from August the 14th, 1912. So it's 110 years ago this week. And it was the Wartworth on Wednesday, August the 14th, 1912, and it was 3 old pence per copy, although they won't be old pence then. The furnaces of the world are now burning around 2 million tonnes of coal a year. When this is burned, uniting with oxygen, it adds about 7 trillion tonnes of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere yearly. This tends to make the air more effective. This makes the air more effective blanket for the Earth and to raise its temperature. The effect may be considerable in a few centuries. So whoever wrote that in the Watamina and Caparada Gazette was a genius. Sadly, it's 1 century, not a few centuries. Right, I will look it up. You're obsessed, Angela, aren't you, with the tomato virus? You're obsessed with tomato virus. It's worrying me slightly. I mean, I've been more worried about other things, but tomato virus is top of my list now of priorities. Right, I've typed in tomato and it's instantly come up with virus. So, it's only 4 tomatoes though, we're alright. Tomato flu. Oh no. What is tomato flu? Virus outbreak in children in India may be hand, foot and mouth disease. Rare tomato flu spreads to more children in India. Tomato mosaic virus symptoms can be found in any stage of the growth of the plant, but why is it? So yeah, I will look into that, and I'll have a section on tomato virus next week. Now I remember the summer of discontent, the winter of discontent, sorry, in the 1970s when everyone was on strike. Well, we're having a summer of discontent this year. This is Edinburgh. A lot of the bin men are on strike, the refuse collectors. They are refusing to work, basically. Today, the post workers are out on strike, and they're out on strike again in a few days for another few days. So that's a new strike that we've added to our load of strikes. And then we've also got the barristers. They are on strike as well. Nothing to do with coffee. These are the people who obviously wear the wigs in court and are very serious. And I always thought earned billions of pounds, but apparently when you start off, you only earn about 12.5 grand, which is ridiculous. So I kind of see where they're coming from, but I don't think they all need a wage rise. I think just the junior staff need a wage rise, a bit like doctors, junior nurses. They need to be nearer where they would be when they're fully qualified on wages, because they do a valuable job, and we need more people to join the, in this case, the barristers. So we've got the courts functioning properly, bearing in mind they shut down pretty much over COVID, so they've got a backlog already. We're now adding to the backlog, and people are leaving the industry because they're on 12.5 grand a year. Soldiers and police, no, they cannot go on strike. They are not allowed to. And I think, one thing Liz Truss has said, which I kind of agree with, is that people who perform important public services should not be able to go on strike. To be fair, the fire brigade went on strike a few years ago, and we had the Green Goddesses out again. But I don't think they're allowed to do that now. I think they have to have at least a basic system. I mean, work to rule is probably the best bet. Don't do overtime. Don't work on your day off. Don't stay late. That kind of thing. And that's one way of affecting and protesting. Plus, as I said last week, I don't understand why people go on strike, because when you go on strike, you're not getting paid. You might get a nominal amount from the union that you're in. Yeah, but it's not going to cover what is going on in the... So I think the cat's having a fight. It's not going to cover what's going on. It's not going to cover your wage. So you lose money when you go on strike. So unless you get a massive wage, it's not really going to work. I mean, we've also got as well, the train strikes are still going on. And yeah, that's it really, isn't it? Yeah, well, yeah, it's just a summer of discontent, or it's soon going to be an autumn of discontent, but The thing is, though, this is all worldwide. The problems we've got with inflation and all that is a worldwide thing. We cannot control gas prices. We cannot control petrol prices. We cannot control oil prices. It's a world thing. It's a world economy, and it's supply and demand. And the more people demand it, the higher the price goes, and that is just how it works. Sadly, the knock-on effects is that, you know, cost of living is just going stupid. We are having people going to food banks. It is just a nightmare. But it isn't just us, it's everywhere in the world. I think America gets a mention shortly. One thing that we are good at doing is we are good at putting raw sewage into our rivers, lakes and the sea. Apparently our water companies, who are banning people from using hose pipes, near enough, I think 30% of the country, if not more, is now banned from using hose pipes. They are pumping untreated sewage into rivers and the sea at exponential, that means a lot, quantities. Someone did a survey, I don't know if it was the BBC or whatever, and it was like 9 million hours last year of raw sewage being pumped into fresh water supplies and the sea. We're in 2022. If it was Dickensian times or Edwardian times or even Victorian times, we wouldn't care. But we do care. It's not only damaging the environment for us, it's killing nature, and there's no excuse for it. I know a lot of our sewers under the streets are 100 and odd years old, but the Victorians knew how to build things. That's why they're still working. That's why they're still here. What we need to do is, wherever the pipes go to, we need to sort that end out, because that's where the problem is. That's where they're pumping the stuff out and saying, oh well, it's when it rains, a hose pipe ban. When it rains, we get too much in our system, so we have to flush it out. So we flush it out into the sea. No, you don't. I mean, worst case scenario, get some big like oil tanks, fill them up with the excess stuff, and then when it goes down again, empty them out again. It's not rocket science. Treat our and don't pump it into our rivers and seas, because there's no excuse. I am fuming about that. Fuming. So how angry I am. Right, I've only got one viewer at the minute. People didn't like that, obviously. Oh well, never mind. Let's keep going. So, next up, everyone's favourite bit. It's meanwhile in America. La 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 America. Do do America. What are they doing in America? There's some right weird poo going on in America, I can tell you. I tell you what, some of this stuff is just like, what? So, first off, Russian spy assumed victory in Ukraine and had a Kyiv apartment picked out before the war. So a guy who was a Russian spy decided that he was going to choose a apartment and he would move into it when Russia won the war. That's how confident he was. Yeah. Good luck with that, mate. Off campus, UC Berkeley student housing bans white people from common areas. So, an off-campus housing co-op for University of California bans white people from entering common spaces to avoid white violence. The 5-storey 30-room person of colour theme house near the school requires students to declare their race when signing in and to announce when they're bringing in white guests to the building. I mean, isn't this where we've gone too far the wrong way? I mean, apartheid, segregation, that was a white man's thing against the people of colour. But now the people of colour are doing it to white people in America? What? What is that about? I mean, let's be honest. I think they should just shut universities down, because most people who go to universities are off the trolley. They're completely bonkers. I mean, these people are going to be ruling the world in a few years' time. Mind you, they won't be flying planes, hopefully. Both pilots on an Ethiopian Airlines flight fell asleep and missed their landing. They fell asleep at the controls, and they missed the landing, and then an alarm went off when the autopilot disconnected. So basically, you know, when you've got your sat nav on and it goes beep boop because you've gone the wrong way, or it goes boop because it thinks you're an idiot. Well, basically that's what's happened. It was supposed to touch down at 6:20 a.m. in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, after a 2-hour flight. It did land safely eventually, but it was a few hours late. Yeah, remember not to fly Ethiopian Airways. Well, not an Ethiopian Airways, they don't, Angela. Right, here we go, another one. A Florida Christian school will only refer to students by biological gender. A Christian school in Florida has said it will only refer to students by their sex assigned at birth, while gay and transgender students will be asked to leave. What? I mean, I kind of get the biological gender bit, but gay and transgender students will be asked to leave. Oh, it's a Christian school, of course it is. They were sent out by email as well, this mandate, to all the parents. Unbelievable, Jeff. And I've just noticed something as well. You can't read what I'm doing here, can you? So let's shrink it down a bit. There you go. Yeah, unbelievable, Jeff. That's kind of shows what's going on in America. I mean, I'm not saying it's backward in America, but by hell, some of the stuff they do is ridiculous. Right. Now, remember last week I mentioned the story of a family that bought some suitcases and there were body parts in there. Well, sadly, the body parts have been identified as 2 children, and between 5 and 10 years old, and they've been dead for several years. And the suitcases have been in storage for at least 3 or 4 years. So I'm assuming it's one of them things where you lost luggage, it's locked, it's just put in storage, it's left there, and then after so long they sell them off sealed, and then people take them home and see what's inside, and you might get a laptop or whatever. Well, yeah, these people sadly got child body parts. Hopefully they will find the person responsible. Now, if you remember last week as well, we were talking about the gingerbread man, which was used for sex education in America, of course. And I did the thing of, yeah, well, he touched me here and whatever, you know, like you do. Well, there's been an unprovoked, possible sexual incident with Prince William, our future king. And there's pictures to prove it. What's going on there, one asks. Well, anyway, actually the story's nothing to do with an elephant touching up Prince William. It's more to do with the 5-year sentence for Ivory, rhino horn trafficker, who was sentenced to more than 5 years in prison in a New York courtroom for illegally poaching and trafficking endangered animal parts. I think 5 years isn't long enough, but it's better than nothing, so go with it, I suppose. And it's just an interesting picture of Prince William and a elephant being rather intimate with him. If you listen to this on the podcast, you just click the link and then go in. How many minutes are we in? 45 minutes, and then just go backwards and forwards and you'll find the picture. Catalytic converter theft soaring as much as 600% in New York City. More than 5,000 catalytic converters have been ripped off. Not ripped off, people buying them being ripped off. I mean, they've been taken off cars, compared to the same period last year where it was 1,500. Now, catalytic converters are full of precious metals, and that's why people steal them to get the precious metals. They open them up, they get the metals out, they melt them down into ingots, blah blah blah. There's not a lot of precious metal in them, so you need a lot of catalytic converters, and then you melt them down, and then you can take them and weigh it in. So I can see why it's happening, but it does bring more to the front of these car batteries. There's very little very little precious metals in catalytic converters. There's a considerable amount of precious metals in car batteries, and the amount of energy taken to get the ore, to melt it down, to then refine it, to then ship it around the world. I've always said that batteries are not the way forward for powering the world. It is ridiculous. It is not green at all. It's not even close to green. If we're going to dig up more of the planet and use more energy to get the copper and for the wiring, the gold, the platinum, whatever else, it is not going to save the planet. We are going to destroy the planet probably even quicker from all the energy we're burning. And just think of the costs. The amount of energy to make a lump of rock give you its copper or whatever's in there. It's just going up and up and up because of world prices. So it's just a complete non-starter. Hydrogen. Power cars with hydrogen. We've already got the infrastructure. Just find a clean way of making hydrogen. Was it in cars? Off we go. No bother. This is a tragic story. A father told his kids to play in the basement. He then killed his wife and himself. I mean, he had 5 children. It doesn't bear thinking about. Those kids are going to find you. I mean, if you're going to do something as tragic, as horrible as that, get the kids out of the house. Send them around to uncles and aunties and neighbours or whatever. Those kids are going to be scarred for life. There's nothing we can do because the perpetrator is deceased. But seriously. I mentioned this before. Ukraine with the parade of captured tanks and trucks, and it become a tourist point. So there's traditional woman in a Ukraine traditional refinery having a selfie or a picture taken at the at one of the tanks. This is a weird one. At least 32 people were killed in southeast Turkey on Saturday when vehicles crashed into the first responders who were attending earlier accidents. So there was an accident, the first responders came out, there was another accident, probably due to rubberneckers, and then vehicles crashed into the whole commotion, and 32 people at least have lost their lives. Tragic doesn't even come close. Absolutely awful, and what a chain of events. Another road tragedy in America. 5 killed in a wrong way crash by a driver who had his license revoked in 2014. Again, unbelievable and tragic. Really, really bad. The guy who was robbed Kim Kardashian of, was it $3 million worth of jewellery in a Paris hotel, has blamed her. Guilty? No, I don't care, he said. He blamed her for the posts that she was putting up and everything. So it's her fault. So you tell people you got nice things and then they come and rob it and it's your fault. Yeah. New York cab drivers are being squeezed out by congestion pricing. So the Traffic Association in Manhattan have said, well, taxi drivers can become bus drivers because we need more bus drivers. But congestion charges, this is something that we had, that was going to happen in Greater Manchester and Wigan, but didn't. So fingers crossed it doesn't, because if it's causing New York taxi drivers to not be able to afford to work, then there's something severely wrong with it. Taiwan says that Chinese planes and ships crossed the Median Straits last weekend. This is not an escalation, but a continuation of what is going on at the moment in Taiwan and China, and it is not a good thing at all. I do fear that we are going to head to some kind of conflict there sooner rather than later. Intolerance in America. Who'd have thought it? Atlanta man arrested after allegedly spray painting swastikas on a rainbow crosswalk. And then had a SWAT standoff. What? I didn't read that bit. A man accused of vandalising the rainbow crosswalks in Atlanta with swastikas was arrested following a standoff with police. I imagine he had a spray can. You don't need a standoff. I mean, worst case scenario, you can taser him. What's he going to do? Spray his face or something? But yeah, completely shocking that, you know, an individual thinks it's okay to do that kind of thing. The daughter of a major Putin ally was killed in a car bombing near Moscow. Now, no one's admitting responsibility for this, and people think that it was her father, who was going to be the victim for this, the target. But yeah, a car bombing in Russia. It's got to be tied in with what's going on with the war in Ukraine. They're saying, a Russian spokesman said, that if it's Ukraine who are found responsible for it, then, you know, that is tantamount to a war crime and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, I don't think Russians have got any moral high grounds when it comes to war crimes at the moment, or even humanitarian care or anything like that. So yeah, sad, but I can't see how they can blame anyone for it. Recently discovered sea bugs can grow up to 1.5 feet and eat an entire alligator corpse. Now, I don't know how a sea bug ever gets to eat an alligator corpse, because alligators don't live in the sea. But anyway, we'll gloss over that. It's just New York Post after all. These creatures look like something you may see in Men in Black, but believe it or not, you can find them on Earth down in the deep sea. So yeah, there's a lot. We know less about what goes down at the bottom of the deep sea than what we do in space. I mean, we had that more pictures from space, didn't we, this week, from that bloody stupid telescope thing they put up that is not going to change life on Earth at all, and that money could have been spent on something a little bit more important than taking pretty pictures of stuff a bazillion miles away. But anyway, to me that looks like a trilobite, which was a prehistoric thing, and I've always wanted a trilobite fossil. I think trilobites are cool. Anyway, well, they were cool, they're not cool anymore. Well, they are cool because they're still... Yeah, anyway, moving on. Florida deputy resigns after pulling a gun on a pregnant woman driving with her kids. That's a nice person, isn't it? Florida sheriff's deputy resigned after body camera footage caught him pulling a gun on a pregnant woman during a traffic stop. Yeah, I know the Americans, particularly the cops, are a bit gun crazy, but I mean, come on. Spielberg, you know, the great keep the planet alive and all that kind of stuff, has burnt 100, and his private jet has burnt $116,000 worth of jet fuel in 2 months. 2 months. I mean, come on. He's previously ripped people who go blithely through life without caring about the impact on the environment. Look at yourself. Them in those in glass houses and all that kind of thing. Seriously. This confused me. A strap hanger was stabbed by a panhandler, says New York subway, is a disaster. Now, a strap hanger is, I think, someone who hangs onto the strap above, you know, doesn't sit down, holds onto the, sometimes it's a knob on a spring, or it's a strap you put your hand through, or it's a rope or whatever, you get them on buses and things like that. But I don't know what a panhandler is. Anyway, the guy got stabbed, slammed city subway system over its soaring crime rates. It sucks what's happening. The subway system is a mess right now. I think public transport in general is a mess, but obviously more in America. Now, I've just mentioned that stupid bloody thing that they've sent off to space to take pictures of stuff that's irrelevant, because you have to send things to space to get good pictures. Well, what about this? Two astrophotographers make insanely detailed moonshots. They took pictures of the moon 200,000 times and then overlaid them all, and they got one of the best images ever of the moon. And I've had a look at it online, obviously not to the detail that they can, but it is amazing, and they're on Earth. Okay, it might have took them a while to actually do it, like I think it was 10 years or something, but it's an amazing thing, and the moon is somewhere we can get to. In fact, we are sending that rocket up this coming week to orbit the moon and come back again as a test flight, and then if it works, we're landing, well, I say we, I'm not, but they're landing people on the moon and hopefully opening a moon base. I wonder what they're going to call it. Alpha, probably, because that seems to be what everyone else calls moon bases in science fiction. They can't call it Enterprise, can they? Because they've already had that, because that was a spaceship. Our poor Finnish Prime Minister, I mean, you got to feel for her. She got accused of being on drugs at a party. I mean, she's not allowed to enjoy herself because she's Prime Minister, but they are Finnish. They don't like enjoying themselves, do they? We had this conversation last week. Anyway, she did a drugs test and it come back negative. Then, since this, there's been other images that have turned up. I don't know whether I mentioned them again, so I won't mention them now, but just remind me if I don't at the end, and I will tell you what they were. Defiant Ukraine marks Independence Day 6 months after invasion. More pictures of the tanks on the streets of Kyiv that have been captured and destroyed. Bond, my name is Bond, James Bond. Ah, Miss Moneypenny, you were spoiling me. Sean Connery personals James Bond Aston Martin DB5 sells for $2.4 million. Sean Connery will be forever synonymous with the Aston Martin DBS featured in his James Bond films, but he only ever owned one himself. Connery purchased the 1964 DBS in 2018, just 2 years before he died at the age of 90. Dad used to talk about owning his own DBS for no other reason than he loved the car, and he think in hindsight it did represent something in his life that was unique and captured a moment in time, said his son, I assume, or daughter. But yeah, basically the story is Sean Connery actually bought a DB9 and it's been sold on auction for $2.4 million. I didn't realise it was that long ago since he passed away as well. Have I skipped a page here? Where's the DB9 come from? Oh right, okay then. I see what's going on here. Right. Dramatic video captures the moment a super yacht sinks off the Italian coast. It's a 130-foot super yacht, completely capsized. It's not capsized. Off the Italian coast over the weekend, sinking stern first into the water. The yacht named My Saga was struggling against the waves. No one was hurt. Everyone was rescued. But yeah, just shows you even millionaires have bad days. A sleeping man. Now this it's not in America. It's in South Ghana. But anyway, a sleeping man cuts off his own genitals while dreaming of chopping meat. Now, the number of questions raised here. I've dreamt of doing many things. I've dreamt of driving a car. I've dreamt of running. I've dreamt of urinating. But I've not done any of them in real life whilst asleep. I don't understand how dreaming of chopping meat would make someone whilst asleep remove their meat and 2 veg. Then the other thing is, why was there a knife to hand? Why was there a knife in the area whilst he was asleep to do it? Did he use a chopping board? Did he put his rubber gloves on? It's so many questions. The 42-year-old said he doesn't know how or when he picked up the knife, but he woke up confused in a pool of his own blood and extreme pain. You don't say. Sherlock Holmes would say, well, not Sherlock Holmes, but as Dr. Watson would say, no poo Sherlock. well, all the poo's in the sea, isn't it? Because the waterboards keep washing them away. Russian mourners at the funeral for the woman killed in the bomb explosion near Russia called for victory in Ukraine. And I agree, there should be victory in Ukraine, but it should be for the Ukrainians. Did he wash his hands after it? Well, yeah, exactly. Because we didn't have a mincer to hand. That's the only thing I was thinking. I didn't want to go there. Right, Cuba and Mexico have reported deaths in monkeypox positive patients. So a couple of people have passed away with monkeypox, but I don't think monkeypox is the reason they died. It's one of them things, they had monkeypox and something else got them. A Parkland shooter, Nicholas Cruz, scrolls 666 on prison cell in his own blood. Brilliant. The Portland school shooter scrolls 666 with his own blood on a prison cell ahead of his ongoing sentencing trial. It's, again, people need help. If people, I mean, doing shootings and stuff like that is insane. But if they don't even acknowledge the fact they've done it, and they do stuff like, in their own cell, and they're not monitored, they should be monitored all the time. Yeah. Here we go again. Only in America. Texas school district bans preferred pronouns, transgender sports participation. The Texas school district has approved a new policy that bans the use of preferred pronouns, classrooms, discussions on sexual orientation and transgender sports participation. The Grapevine Colleyville Independent School District, which is located in affluent Dallas suburb, approved the policy on a 4-3 vote on Monday night. 4-3. So basically one person has completely changed the outlook in a Texas school district. Again, it makes no sense. It should be, something like that should be unanimous, and less than 10 people making a decision like that? No. I'm not saying the decision is right or wrong, but it's certainly not right. I know what I mean. There we go. A new dinosaur tracks were discovered in Texas after dries up river. Now, we've had a lot of bodies found in rivers and reservoirs and lakes and things like that due to the droughts. In the United Kingdom, we find old villages and bridges and stuff like that have been exposed, that were in a valley which was flooded for reservoirs or whatever, 100 years ago or whatever. But no, in America they found bodies. But this time they found some dinosaur footprints. And they reckon they're 113 million years old, and it was what was it? I thought it did say what it was called, but basically it was a close relative to the Tyrannosaurus Rex. I don't know if that was like an auntie or a brother or something, but anyway, close relative to the T-Rex. Right, so we're going to go to here now. There's a lanternfly invasion, a spotted lanternfly invasion in New York City, and it's bad apparently. These next crazed bugs are not buzzing off. The Big Apple's spotted lanternfly invasion is getting worse, with more sightings of the plant-destroying pests as their mating season revs up in the urban jungle. The invasive insects, which ravage everything from fruit trees to grapevines and vegetable gardens, have grown to adults and are swarming in the city in an effort to get laid, it says. I don't think it's an effort to get laid. I don't think they're necessarily doing it because they think New York is a cool place to go. What I probably think is that that's just where they're being blown or whatever. And let's be honest, there aren't many fields in New York City. The only thing you've got is Central Park. So I wouldn't worry too much about them being in New York City. I don't think it's as big a thing as what they're trying to make it out to be. Oh, and I remember President Biden, he got COVID, then he got over COVID, and then he got COVID again. And then his missus got COVID, and then she got over COVID, and she's got COVID again. So she's had a rebound positive test for COVID after he had a positive rebound test for COVID as well. It does make you think that, maybe they would say, we don't make people like we used to do. People back in the day, much tougher and stronger than what the wimps are that are being born today. Well, yeah, I think looking at them two, I think they might not. Wrong Wendy's order leads to a shooting in Texas. Of course, it's Texas. He found the beef. A Wendy's customer. Oh no, he found the beef. A Wendy's customer who flew into range when his drive-through order was wrongfully unleashed. When his drive-through order was wrong, he unleashed a fury and bullets on the fast food workers he believed to have messed up his meal. 19-year-old went to Wendy's in Frisco, Texas. After picking up his food in the drive-through window, he went inside the store and began arguing with employees about what was in his biggest bag. I don't even know what a biggie bag is, but either way, you shouldn't have guns. They shouldn't allow guns for everyone in the United States of America. I mean, we had that tragic shooting of the guy in McDonald's a few weeks ago, and Wendy's, because their order's wrong. When I get my order wrong from a fast food restaurant, I do a YouTube video about it and slag them off on YouTube. I don't go in there and shoot them. Anyway, Biden is sending another $3 billion in aid as Ukraine marks 6 months of war. So $3 billion of aid going to Ukraine. Again, not a problem with that at all. Germany, though, they're getting a bit backtracking now, aren't they? They're saying that their supplies of weapons have gone down considerably because they've been giving them to Ukraine. Well, what were they expecting them to do? Do they have a magic bag where it just reappears all the time? No, that's what happens. But this is to save you from going to war. You stopping Russia is saving the rest of Europe. So it's a good thing. A man smuggles 1,700 reptiles into the US, with some stuffed in his pants. Now, I'm not a reptile fan anyway, but I certainly would not, under any circumstances, put any reptiles in my pants. I would, even less likely, ever try and smuggle reptiles into anywhere. Even more so, the United States of America. I mean, the fact I don't have a passport and I don't want to go anywhere is irrelevant. But yeah, 60 snakes and other reptiles were found stashed in his pants. It's yeah, you should go to prison for a very long while and give your head a wobble as well while you're in there, because there is something severely wrong with you, mate. What else is going on here? Tattoo ink used in the United States may contain cancer-causing chemicals, a new study says. A new study suggests almost half the tattoo inks used in the United States could contain cancer-causing chemicals. Now, we had this in the United Kingdom years ago, and I don't think we use anything like that now. I mean, I don't have a tattoo. I've never had a tattoo. I don't want a tattoo. I was in a tattoo parlour yesterday, but that was a completely different thing. I don't want to have a tattoo, but I would have thought that surely by now people would understand that if you've got something injected into your skin, you want to know what it is. Maybe. Billboards in San Francisco and Los Angeles warn against moving to Texas by invoking mass shootings. They've got a sign up called "The Texas Miracle Died in Uvalde." It's not. I mean, it's clever, but it's under tragic circumstances. Apparently, a lot of people from San Francisco have decided to move to to Texas. And I cannot imagine the people who live in San Francisco coping with life in Texas, even without the gun crime. We've already looked at the education system where they keep going on about, we're not having transgender, you're only going to be recognised as this, that and the other, gingerbread men, all that kind of gubbins. It's a backward, very backward state. You're better off in San Francisco, stay there. And if you're in Los Angeles, why the hell would you want to move from there anyway? Apart from maybe the cost of living. But apart from that, I mean, come on. I said before about someone having a bad day. Well, how's about this for having a bad day? One man, in the same day, in Italy, tested positive for COVID-19, monkeypox, and HIV on the same day. Now that is a bad day. He had a few sores. When he got to the hospital, as they do, they tested him for COVID. Then they confirmed he had monkeypox, took blood from him, and then he found out he had HIV. I mean, that is a catalogue of bad luck in one day. I wouldn't have bought a lottery ticket if I was him that day. Aussie tourist arrested after illegally riding a moped through Pompeii heritage site. Is it legal to ride? Is it ever legal to ride a moped through Pompeii? Okay, it's not the main part of Pompeii, but still. He rode his bike for 1.2 miles. And you think, oh, he's a kid. He's a kid. You know, he's Australian. They don't know what they're doing. He was 33 years old. There is no excuse. Chuck him in a cell and throw away the key. A frisky orangutan flashes huge grin as he gropes a woman's breasts at a Thailand zoo. I mean, look at that cheeky grin. It looks like the Sid James Carry On Movies UK has been reincarnated as an orangutan. California is set to ban sales of new gas-powered cars by 2035, which is like 5 years after everyone else. But anyway, at least it's a start. But you don't need to ban them. What you need to do is you need to get hydrogen being mass produced safely, put into gas tanks. Cars will work. Only thing we get out is water, or we use what's that one I was on about last week? The synthetic fuel, something like that, which only it uses carbon dioxide out of the air, and the only thing that comes out of the car when you're using it is the carbon dioxide that's already come out of the air. So yeah. Anyway, electricity. Stop talking about electric cars. It's not going to save the planet. This is tragic on numerous levels. A girl 3 declared dead, wakes up at a funeral, and then dies again. A 3-year-old girl woke up during a funeral before being officially declared dead after the doctors mistakenly presumed her dead in the first case. So she was declared dead. They had time to organise a funeral, at which point she wakes up in the funeral, but then she passes away again. Now the question is, if they have realised that she wasn't actually dead when they thought they were, could they have treated her better, and could she still be alive now? We don't really know, but it's just a horrendous story. I mean, there's many comedy programs where they have people pretending to be dead and then they kind of pop up in the grave and all that kind of thing. But if it's happening in real life, it's horrific. Texas, yay! Not backwards at all. A Texas retailer, i.e. shop owner, spews anti-Indian vitriol, referring to 4 Indian people as curry-assed bitches. The Texas retailer has been charged with making terrorist threats after she was caught on camera hitting 4 Indian women while calling them in curry-assed bitches. Esmeralda Upton, 58, was arrested on Thursday for the prolonged hate-filled attack caught on video that started with her yelling at the woman, "Go back to India. Everywhere I can go, you Indians are everywhere," she spits out at one point in the nearly 5.5 minute video. If life's so great in India, why the fuck are you here? Now, many problems with this. One is you've got to be more tolerant, and if you think things, I mean, you can't help what you think. If you think things, then you think things, but you don't physically and verbally attack people because of their nationality. Secondly, Americans are immigrants. White Americans are immigrants in America. The only people who are rightfully in America are the Indian population who've been there forever. Now, obviously these people are not native Indians. These people are Indians from India, or descendants from Indians from India. But there's no excuse for that, and there's absolutely no excuse to be racist and basically calling people out for being in your country that you shouldn't be in, because it's not your country either. You are an immigrant. You might be third, fourth, fifth, sixth generation, but you're still an immigrant. If you're white and live in America, you are an immigrant. End of story. Sorry, bit of a rant there, but I think well deserved. What's this guy done? I can't remember. Oh, it's the Oklahoma death row inmate who forgave the governor who denied him clemency. So the guy was going to be lethally injected. There was a last-minute reprieve request, which was refused by the governor, and the guy said, "I forgive the state penitentiary and the governor, not the governor, the governor for not giving me clemency." So yeah, it should be the other way around really, but anyway, there you go. Right, this is in the United Kingdom, but reported in America. I mean, it must have been a slow news day, that's all I can say. British firefighter free man with hand stuck in sofa. Firefighters in Britain responded to a strange job this week. Strange job? I mean, it's a standing joke that firemen have to extract people from things on a regular basis. Heads through railings, cats from trees, and a guy with a hand stuck in his sofa. His hands trapped down the back of a sofa, and the firefighters came out and managed to extract him. The man, you'll be pleased to know, suffered no serious injuries. I mean, how injured can you be trapping your hands in a sofa? TikTok, gotta love TikTok, said no one. TikTok car theft challenge. Chicago area sees a 767% increase in Hyundai and Kia thefts. Basically, there's a car theft challenge on TikTok going viral, and it's apparently easy to nick a Hyundai and a Kia, so people are doing it for the kicks, and the cases of theft for those cars has gone up 760%, 67% in an incredibly short period of time. Yeah, you've got to love social media, haven't you? This is again another thing about intolerance. A New Zealand newsreader slaps down a viewer who complained about a Maori face tattoo. The high-profile newsreader in New Zealand has publicly slapped down an R8 viewer who repeatedly complained about a traditional face tattoo. She became the first person to anchor the news with the moku kuani, a traditional Maori tattoo that covers a woman's lips and chin. I mean, I don't think it's too bad at all. And again, it's tradition. You know, it's like saying, you know, I don't want anyone on the news who's had a tattoo or who wears, I don't know, a necklace, or who is has got a beard or something like that. I mean, it's no. You have no rights, and she did well to slap him down. I'd have gone round and slapped him in the face, to be fair. And I'm not a violent man, Mr. Faulty, to paraphrase the late Bernard Cribbins. Meanwhile, an ambulance explodes at a Y hospital, killing the patient inside. The patient was killed and a paramedic critically injured when the ambulance they were in apparently exploded outside a hospital in Hawaii. This was last night. It was a 91-year-old patient to the emergency room. An 8-year-old veteran ambulance person sustained critical injuries and has been transferred to a burns unit. Again, no words can explain the horror that is, not only for the ambulance worker, but obviously the family and the woman involved. Horrendous. You always think that an ambulance is a safe place to be, unless you're in the back of one in Russia. Obviously, you watch car crash TV. Hey! Human remains found in Lake Mead have been ID'd as a man who went missing 20 years ago. So he went missing, and they obviously didn't bother looking for him, because in Britain they keep looking until they find them. Authorities in Las Vegas have identified bones found in May along newly exposed Lake Mead shoreline as remains of a 42-year-old Las Vegas man who is believed to have drowned 20 years ago. He went missing in August 2020. It beggars belief that even in, not 2020, 2002, sorry. It beggars belief that even 2002, if someone is in a lake, then they got a rough idea where they are and they know what the currents are because it's 2002. They didn't find the body at the time and they just give up. Anyway, hopefully the family can get some peace from the incident, and yeah. Anyway, that's it. And we had no technical issues this week. Oh my word. I've been doing lots of tweaks and things during the week to try and sort it out. One reason why I did a broadcast as well earlier on this week, which was the one I did for retro gaming playing. What should we leave? What should we have as the last picture? We'll have a hero of the week. Could be a new thing, couldn't it? We'll go for Mike Tyson. Not Mike Tyson, Tyson Fury. I keep saying Mike Tyson, Tyson Fury. As hero of the week. Because despite close personal family tragedy, has stood up and said to the government, you need to do more. It is an epidemic. It is terrible. Knife crime should be stopped. Anyway, that is it. So thank you very much to Angela for talking. Any Super Game players. Only Angela really in most of the time. So yeah, thank you very much for chatting. And I will see you all again. Until next time. Oh, hi Robert Brown, I'm okay. Bye!